we have a Christmas special, a holiday special for you because we have Dr. Mindy live in the house here on the Dr. Boz channel. Yes, we are in that wonderful week between Christmas and New Year's, and I have a few things on my list that I said I really want to do some of these things before the end of the year. And one of them was to help my friend Dr. Mindy, who has written a book that I wish I could take credit for helping her, but it was like she got inside my mind and wrote down the words in a book in a way that has been helping women and helping just the audience in general how to get their hearts and minds around the idea of the F word, which is fasting. So, Dr. Mindy, welcome. Merry Christmas.
Oh, Merry Christmas to you. I just love this. You and I have so connected on this, YouTube culture that we are a part of. So this is really fun for me. And yes, let's bring the F word to light and make it a little bit kinder and easier to hear.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I told Dr. Mindy that I would do this interview, and then our family has a wonderful adventure of being here at a wrestling tournament. So I'm here in a hotel room, and the word fasting is something that I can't wait for you to unpack a little bit for my audience and for just exploring a little bit more about the book. Because if you've been around a wrestling team, everybody has to make weight, and so this idea of fasting and what does it mean and what is it for a teenage boy and then what is it for 50-year-old women when we fast, boy, yeah, that could take an encyclopedia, but
Agreed. Yeah. Are they
Mhm.
doing it safely? I mean, that's really when we talk about fasting, it's not just avoiding food. Like there's a
Oh,
safe way and an unsafe way to do it.
right, yeah, his mother is me, so
Excellent.
yes.
I love it.
Right. So, it is interesting to kind of flip the switch when you're giving metabolic advice. Um, my day and night and 25 years have been spent with metabolisms that are filled with insulin, that are overly abundant in their storage, and
Yeah.
to kind of apply all that science where you really stop thinking, does anybody ever exist without insulin resistance? And
Yeah.
then you walk into a wrestling room where they work out 4 hours a day, they have more muscle cells than sometimes brain cells, which is why they have mothers.
For sure.
but
Uh,
but that the process of fasting becomes a wealth of education, and you say, oh yeah, there are normal people in the world that don't have insulin resistant, but they all might be 16-year-old wrestlers, so
yeah.
yes. Well,
Well
let,
said.
let, let me put out a couple of softballs because I don't know how many of my people on the channel have read the book or seen the book. So why don't you just introduce the book and then give us a little insight, because I've written a couple of these book things and they consume your life. They are hard. So
Really?
whatever inspired you to want to write a book?
Oh my gosh. You needed to give me that advice this summer. You're right. It has totally consumed my life, my Christmas, everything. So, what's really fun about this book is that actually, and I know you would resonate with this, it was born out of my subscribers on my YouTube channel.
Mm,
A lot of people started to find my channel after they had read the obesity code. And they were like doing the one meal a day and they got great results and then they got stuck. And so they
mhm.
came over to my channel where I was teaching feast famine cycling and showing how to move in and out of sugar burner and fat burner. And they started to unstick themselves as far as weight loss goes and their results and getting their glucose and insulin down. And then I started to see a trend in women. And I started to
Mm,
see that all the women that were fasting had the same symptoms: hair falling out, cycles stopping, anxiety, weight gain. So I started playing with tweaking how do we look at feast famine cycling around a woman's hormones. And
mhm.
this was like 7 years ago. I started putting all these pieces together and then just rolled it out to my patients, rolled it out to our following, and we started to see a very clear formula that women had to fast differently.
Amen.
So, really, like the Fast Like a Girl is basically a summary of everything that we've seen in millions of people, millions of women giving us feedback that when they fast for their hormones, everything works great. And when they don't fast for their hormones, everything hormonally starts to go in the wrong direction. So that was really,
Exactly.
really the birth of this book.
It is. I've got several folks chirping in saying their book arrives today. They are reading
Yeah.
between your book and mine. They're going to have the encyclopedia of how to do this right. And I think
Yes.
it truly is what happens when you have I do I wonder if the audience can possibly appreciate how much it's refreshing to find a voice like yours in this space
Yeah.
where the service heart in you is easy to
Yeah.
feel. So to watch your journey and then hear that, yeah, the reason I wrote a book is, I had all these people asking, how do you do it, how do you actually
Yeah.
solve this puzzle? And it wasn't obvious on the first year that we started advising patients, because
Right?
there's no textbook telling us how to do this. They're all
No.
saying, no, low fat, low fat, low fat. I'm like, no, that's not working for these
No.
people. And then to come into these struggles of, okay, now there's an advanced level that we have to figure out that only those that are, truly going to stay the course and figure it out, they have to have a service heart. They have to
Yeah.
be in this space for the reasons that really do invite those followers. I mean, why is your YouTube channel and my YouTube channel a very similar profile? Because when you look at that, the process of improving people's lives, it's not a one-stop shop. It is a journey of a continued conversation.
Agreed.
Well,
Agreed. And you know what, on that point, I just want to point out, just for people listening, like, I feel like you and I were like soul sisters. Like when I met you this summer, I was like, oh my God, because we approach this information with the same intention. And I think, that's really, really, what we want to start to see is that we take this cookie cutter formula that healthcare has created, as people's path, and really make it more individualized. And you and I both connect on this metabolic syndrome. The poor metabolic health is at the root of everything. So if we could help people solve that,
yeah.
then we can solve almost everything else.
And how many times have you heard people say, "Oh, you cannot fast; it will ruin your hormones"?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, and this is actually was the thing that really fueled me on the days I was like, I don't want to write this anymore. It was like I'd go read an article where like some popular celebrity would come out and be like, women shouldn't fast, or there'd be like some mainstream article that not good for women, and I'm like, no, no, we're gonna end this right now, and that's what this book is about. Is like it's amazing for women, and let me tell you why, and this is how we should do it.
Right. So yeah, you nothing like fighting fire with fire there, because your forward is
Yeah.
open the book. I'm like, oh, that is a home run. You win. That is amazing home run. So why don't you tell people about? Because I have heard every celebrity as well. In fact, I have a list of celebrities that do keto that say the word fasting not in a. So why don't you tell about your forward, and then how did that? That's such an awesome story.
Yeah, you know what? It's so crazy. So, Leanne, and what she's referring to as Leanne Rhymes, reached out to me, November 2021. And here's the funny thing: is I wasn't taking any patients on. I was just writing this book, and she had heard me on a webinar. And so it took her some time to get to me, because I was like, I'm not doing one-on-one anymore. And finally, when we connected, I said, here, let me just give you some things to do around fasting and food, and like we'll check in a month. And she was like, no, no, like I need you to coach me through this. So that was November 21, and it's been this beautiful experience. We literally talk almost every single day. We've taken all of these principles, and integrated metabolic health into her hormonal health. And then she's been, she's got mental health. She's been very vocal about mental health. So literally on the day I met her, she was counting calories. She at 39 years old had no idea about her hormones. And here we are a year later, and she's a freaking master of her hormones and metabolic health. And so she tells the story in the foreword, and she's so authentic. You would love her. Like, she's so kind and authentic and wants to help women. And I feel like her foreword just sets the tone for the whole book, because she talks about musical rhythm and how, as a celebrity, she's not going to get a free pass out of perimenopausal years, and she realized that like her celebrityness was not going to help her get through perimenopause. She was going to have to do some work, and that's what we've been doing.
I mean, it's truly exactly the same puzzle where, you get to the place in your career, in your advice for patients, and you and I were both kind of reaching for that next chapter to learn, and it wasn't there. And so I
Right.
kind of write down, here's what I see in practice working. And there's no guidelines for you, Dr. Mindy. There's no,
Right.
"Oh, here's what the experts are going to say." It's like, no, here is a practitioner in real life saying, I have to answer to the people sitting in the chair across from me,
That's
and
right.
thing is their hormones, and that the idea of counting these calories, you guys have led us astray. It isn't working.
Hmm.
They're hurting. And
Right.
one of my mantras for patient care is, when your body gives you enough symptoms, you're either going to get
Mm.
desperate enough to find the physicians that have said, all right, yes, you're right, those guidelines didn't come out of nothing, they came out of
Yeah.
years of experience, but we have to not ignore the voices of what was happening right in front of us as practitioners, and say the words, okay, let me apply this, where you don't throw the whole guidelines out with the bathwater, but say, on top of that, here's what they were missing, and here's how I can help you.
Yeah. I think it's asking deeper questions. I think, and you actually really enlightened me on this when I brought you on my podcast. And it's like there became this system that healthcare has really tapped into, and it's very formulaic. And
Yeah.
yet, when we deal with the human body, we are not formulaic. We all
Right.
have individual needs, and so, then you have take a woman's body, and she's definitely not formulaic. So I
Yes.
think that I love this idea of we've got to ask deeper questions, and I also, and this is a big prep piece of Fast Like a Girl, is we got to get to know our own selves. Like I've sat in so many conversations over the last 6 months with women of all ages that are like, wait, like when does estrogen come in my cycle? When is wait, I'm in menopause. What's happening to my hormones? I'm like, no, like we got to start with just an awareness of where the hormones are at, and we don't even have that.
No, 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 right. So when you look at the women who have, you know because I see this as well, the women who've got really what Leanne Rhymes has, which is, you start with a little bit of a problem with hormones, and that acquisition of symptoms doesn't just stop with, oh, let me help you with your period, let me help you get pregnant,
Right.
which I think keto has some awesome life restoring new the number of letters I have saying, I'm pregnant because I followed your advice. And I'm sure you've got the same kind of impact when you say we can manipulate hormones, when you start talking, when you start manipulating fat.
Right.
But that symptom of like Leanne Rhymes, where she got all the way to mental health. So if you start at just the menstruation
Mm.
not working well, if you had to line up what you see patients suffer with, if hormones of a menstrual cycle being the first part, and what I think of as the most extreme part is when their mental health is in need of a physician. Uh,
Right.
what were some of the other profiles of patients that you really think this book is going to help?
Yeah, this is such a good question. And I want to address one of the questions. Somebody said that the book shows to deliver on February 1st. Uh, uh, and I promise you, there are new books coming. The snowstorm in America here, the weather sort of derailed getting new books. We actually sold out in the first 15,000, so the second has been sent. So if you order it, I promise, February 1st is not when it's coming. It's coming much earlier than that.
Yay!
So I just had to say that
That's a great
supplement to say
problem to have. I'm just
it's a
saying.
great
I mean,
problem to have. And so Hay House just sent a bunch more to all so you're going to get a lot earlier than that. Okay, to answer your question, and I think this is really important, is that in the book I map out 6 different types of fasts. And they're all based off of time. So we can call to fasting time restricted eating, is I think a better way to look at it, because fasting gets all jumbled up, but you're basically taking a certain period of time and eating, leaving the rest for not eating. And when you look at these 6, here's the benefits. When we look at even intermittent fasting, 13 to 15 hours, you're looking at growth hormone and testosterone starting to rise. So you slow aging, get more testosterone. You're going to end up with more motivation, libido, drive is going to be great. 17 hours, we know that autophagy starts to kick in. So you're going to get some of that, get rid of those cells that aren't working. The senescent cells are going to get out of your body. 24 hours, you repair the gut. We have evidence, scientific evidence that you're going to upregulate stem cells in your gut. So you can start to repair your gut. We see huge metabolic changes at 36 hours. 48 hours, we get a huge reset of the dopamine system. I even found a beautiful study done on humans showing that new dopamine receptor sites start to emerge when you fast for 48 hours. And then Walter Longo's 3-day water fast is the Mac Daddy, and that's where you can reboot the whole immune system. So if you look at just all of that, what we're seeing is that, when we just are working on our food, we're not trying to tap over into the fat burning system. We miss out on everything that I just said. So
Right.
we've got to fast and do keto. If you do both of them together, you've now are in this, like, you're in a whole nother universe. You're in the fat burning energy system. And in that system, you're going to not only lose weight, you're not only going to bring your hemoglobin A1C down and glucose, insulin, all of that you talk about, but you tap into this just abundance of healing effects that I just talked about. So when you ask, like, okay, what is it that people were seeing? I've seen mental health challenges change, chronic depression and anxiety. I've seen, women that were in menopause start to come out of menopause as their hormones regulated. Weight loss, of course, is a big one. Sleeping better, chronic pain going away. I mean, all the same things that you see
But
when
I
you're
think
over.
what's so powerful is as you say these words. I mean, what I'm doing is I keep holding my chest, saying, "Oh, it's so refreshing to hear it from another person again,"
Right.
because you do feel like your own echo chamber. Like, I know I'm not the only one seeing it. The emperor has no clothes, but I'm the
Right.
only one saying this.
Yes,
And
so well
so
said.
when I was reading your book, I mean, I got emotional a couple times saying, "Oh my gosh," to see another person write it down, say it out loud, and say, "No, no, no, I'm not the only one reading these studies, and
Yeah.
I've seen the application in my patients."
Yeah.
But when you mean to hear it from in another, like, parallel universe saying, "No, no, no, I didn't help you write it." I feel embarrassed that I didn't get to be part of the journey of saying,
Oh,
"Don't
next
give
one,
up."
next one.
Keep writing. But that encouragement for people to stand outside of the pack of what
Mhm.
your industry has said to do, and then just boldly be able to say, go talk to the patients that have been improved, and
Yeah.
then their sisters and their children and
Yes.
their mothers, because
Yes.
as soon as you truly awaken that soul in their bodies that is dependent on the right advice, the vortex around them gets better.
Yeah.
Their circle of influence starts to talk about that. And I think as providers, it's been a lonely journey.
It's
That
so
say,
lonely.
yeah,
Although I will tell you, I get people, like, as I've been promoting this book, I've had people ask me, well, what do you say to the critics of fasting? And like, my response is, why would you be a critic of fasting? Have you not seen the research? Like,
right.
and really what I want to say is, you're dumb. Like,
That's exactly.
hello, because, to your point, you and I dive into the research, and then we create the application in our patients, and then we do one step further. We teach on YouTube, and we get to see hundreds of thousands of people respond back to us and show us what's working. I have no doubt this fasting is your fastest path to great metabolic health, and if you're not doing it, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, read the book. I put all the science in there, but it's such a powerful tool, and it's free.
That's right. Exactly. Like the industry supporting us to teach fasting isn't isn't there. That there's no
No,
such
yeah,
thing. It's
yeah.
the absence of food. It's the absence. And I just think that is, as raising my boys are in those late teenage years, and watching to say life of abundance has been this easy creep
Mm,
into your life as you look at stuff and 21st century living, and then you take on this journey, which in my case really started with my mom's health and saying, I'm gonna
mhm.
I'm gonna walk lock in step with her as we help her. And of course, what's turned into an army of people around you saying, "No, I want help too. I want help too."
Mm.
And the subtext of where all of these conversations come from is the lack of stuff, the lack of a
Yes. Ah, so well
and
said.
that is that's like, "Oh, are you deprived?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you don't understand. This is a privilege for me to say I choose not to do this because of the benefits." And oh, it just turns into a conversation
Yeah.
that you're like, "No, no, no, no. This is a choice." And I think the more people that really can hear the testimonies from people who said, "I literally went without food for 48 hours or 36 hours to 48 hours, and I cannot believe what
Right.
happened." And
Right. So the
so
self pride, I think this is something to really point out. When I went to put the book together, it was really important to me to put these 6 different length fasts in there because I think the longer we go, and I don't know if you've had conversations with Jason Fung or Megan
oh,
Ramos. We're actually next week. You're gonna. I don't know if you've met Megan, but you're coming on my master class. I don't. Hopefully you know that.
yeah, yeah, that part I know. It was today that I was like, "Who's leading today?" "Oh, I'm leading today."
Yeah, next week I'm leading,
Okay.
so just to fill everybody in, I brought Dr. Boz and Megan Ramos and a hormone expert, Dr. Carrie Jones, together to have
Oh,
this conversation about metabolic health mixed with hormones. But what I'm starting to see is that the longer fasts have this greater benefit, and when you go into these longer fasts, the self pride, to your point, is like, because you and I can teach it. We can
right,
say, here's what you do, but we can't do it for you.
right.
Only you can get through those tough moments. So, what I see happens to people is they kind of go, I don't know, I don't know. And then they do it and they're like, boom, like they're
Yes.
like rock stars. They're like, look at me. Okay, I don't know any diet that's going to do that for you. But
Mm-mm.
to bring back that empowerment in yourself,
Mhm.
now you can, whatever the media wants to say, whatever big pharma wants to say, you don't care because you've experienced it for yourself. And I
It's
think
real.
that's a huge piece of fasting, is that self empowerment that comes from there.
Mm. And that's the gift. That's the part where when I look at the first 15, 20 years of my career and the number of patients who really transcended into a health that we have this mantra in our clinic that said, "Don't let the patient get addicted to us." Because as they
Ooh.
would come off of their, carb addictions was later in my career, but other addictions in life, and we would, help them get out of this darkness that they were dependent on, sex, drugs, rock and roll,
Mm.
chemotherapy, life that was really holding them down. And as you walk out of that the depths of a poor health, they they love you, and you're like,
Right.
great, but that
Right.
isn't the solution here. Your journey is to be free of all of this.
That's right.
You
Such a
know,
good point.
Right, when you
Yeah.
watch that transition where they go from not fasting to their first fast, it's like the first little bit of feathers on their wings saying, "No, you're gonna do this, and you're not gonna need me. You're going to be free from all of this." And
Yeah.
I really, I can't recommend this book enough because of how much it says, not only did you help to parse out the different places where you don't have to reach for the ultimate fast tomorrow. In fact,
Right.
I
No.
recommend that. I would recommend you.
No.
Right. So why don't you tell them what you recommend? Because I'll
Yeah.
shut up. You're gonna say
No,
what I want
no,
anyway.
I find you as fascinating as your listeners, I'm sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, here's what I would say. I call it fast training. Is
Mm,
that I really feel like we have to slowly train ourselves to fast. Just like, if I was going to go run a marathon, if I decided the marathon was in 6 months, I wouldn't just slap on some shoes and go run 13 miles my first go.
mm,
I would do probably 3 and then 5, and I'd build up to it. So if the thing about fasting, I don't know if you've experienced this, but what I see and what my followers have seen is it gets easier the more you do it.
mhm,
Like, I don't know any diet that gets easier the more, and keto diet's the same way. Like, it
mhm,
just gets easier the more you do it because your body is craving it. So,
mhm.
with the 6 different fasts, I really recommend you just master the first level, and then one day a week, try to stretch your fast. Go a little bit longer and get that hormesis and a little bit of adaptation. And then, 1 or 2 days a week, don't fast. We want to go back into this feast famine cycling. In the book, what I did, because the hormonal piece is just a little bit, it has a little variation to it, is I put two 30-day resets in there. One that's for beginners and one that's for an advanced. So you could literally start on day one and just go 30 days through. Great for menopausal women, great for men if men want to do it. And then if you're a woman, a cycling woman, you'll just time that 30-day reset to where you are in your cycle. And I explain it all in the book. But to your point, it definitely has to be, you want to train yourself. You also want to set yourself up for success. Like what we do with diets in general is we're like, woo, I'm going to dive all in. And then we're like,
January
oh,
1st.
gung-ho.
Right around the corner. You're like, no, don't do this again. You did this
No.
last
And then
year.
2 weeks later, you're like, I can't do this. Okay, let's stop that mentality.
Right. So when you look at, let's just actually take a couple of real life examples. And so maybe pick one from my favorite stories are always the ones that are closest to me. So I look at your maybe family or friends and family in your area that were pretty resistant to doing their first fast. And can you think of an example in your mind where you walked them through this and maybe just share what their experience was and how that story has either in the process of unfolding or has unfolded?
Yeah, I'll give you two examples. One that really surprised me was a woman who had chronic fatigue and adrenal fatigue,
Mhm.
and she was super hypoglycemic. And she's like, I can't go more than 8 hours without food. And so what we did is we literally spent about 6 months just taking her eating window and slowly compressing it. She was eating really well. Now she was eating like gluten free well, so we had to pull some of her, right, we had to pull some of her carbs and put her more into nature's carbs and get a little more in the keto area. And then but we just slowly over time started to push that fasting window bigger and bigger. And within about 3 months
Mhm.
she had her groove and she was doing great. She wasn't hypoglycemic anymore. So that was cool. The
Mhm.
second one is this is the first time I did this, and we're going to actually do it again next week. Is that I took a group of people who had never fasted.
Mm.
It was like this extreme entrepreneurial group. Jesse Itzler, I don't know if you know who he is.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I'm part of his mentorship group. So I took 50 of these like high performing entrepreneurs through a 3-day water fast. Now, these people are like gung ho, right? So they're like, let's go. Not everybody was metabolically healthy, but we
That's
just put
hard.
them through. We put them through 3 days, and and I led them. Each day I told them what to do. Each day I was there to support them. There was a lot of community that they could lean upon. But the biggest thing was again self pride after 3 days, and how many people told me that they dropped weight and it never came back. So months later, they're like, I never had my weight come back. So we're going to do it again next week for a 3-day water fast worldwide. We actually already have over 4,000 people signed up for it. It's free. I
That's so
know.
cool.
And we're just going to guide people through it. So, we've had examples like that. I had another example that I haven't shared with you that you would geek out on, of a man who has total food addiction and
Mm.
over 300 pounds. And he came to me and asked for help. And when I asked him what he was addicted to, a lot of soda, lot of buffalo wings and things like that. And so all I did is take the food he was eating and I started to work on compressing his eating window. I didn't change his food at all.
Oh, that's cool.
So the
I've done
first
that.
month, I just said, "Can we get you to 13 hours of fasting?" And he just did that one thing and he lost 15 pounds that first month. He didn't change what he ate. All he did is put it all in an eating window. So the
Perfect.
next month I was like, "Okay, could we drink the soda outside the house? Just don't have it in the house."
Totally. I love this.
Another 9 pounds. Then the next month I was like, okay, can we just up your protein? And that's it. Another 12 pounds. So like the
That's so
guy had
cool.
almost 40 pounds down, and we didn't take his buffalo wings or his soda away just from like making some changes like that.
It's exactly, I mean, that I think one of the best things that has prepared me for the world of carb addiction is what I think we're fighting when you talk about fasting or keto or any of this stuff, was the years of addiction clinic that I didn't
Mhm.
really promote a lot. I was an internal medicine doctor who happened to work on peak brain performance. And that means if you're addicted to something, we're going to have to tackle that. But
Mhm.
it's powerful that when you look at the people who make the changes that last, they do not rip their lives apart and change everything. They change one thing, and then they
Yeah.
hold with that, and then they change the next thing. And I will, I'll spin back to one little thing that I've been looking at a couple of topics for my speaking stuff that's coming up this year, and then just even this next month of January, a couple of things that I had known, but maybe I just didn't unpack as well as I should have. And that is that we've all heard of crash diets and how terrible they are and how awful they are. And when you said that you dropped their weight and they held it, it reminded me of the
Yeah.
study that look at when you drop weight quickly, it sounds awful, like, "Oh, don't do that, don't do that." But the truth is, to set points in our bodies are not, they do not like casual change. Uh, as much as
Mm.
you casually change them
Mm.
to raise them, oftentimes when they were putting on weight, the point happened over a short period of time where they really did gain a bunch of weight. And the reverse is what I am so thankful to have really watched or looked into this and said, wow, I've seen this in my practice when they lose that weight quickly. So that 3-day water fast is a perfect example. And then all you're working at is maintaining a behavior, one behavior
Yeah.
that you really need to, look in the mirror and say that's not good for you. But that drop in weight quickly is actually the best antidote for people who say once you gain weight, you can never lose it. And there's plenty of studies that prove that. It's like, oh, you're never going to lose it once you gain the weight. You're never going to lose it. And the truth is some of the hacks to losing the weight is you must drop that weight rather succinctly. So making
Yeah. Oh,
a
I
change
love
like
that.
that, and then hold one behavior change for the next 3 to 6 months. Then dive in again for another set point change. And
I love that. It makes sense because I hadn't really thought it through like
right.
that. But it's a hormetic stress, and we have to
Mhm.
be like sometimes when we come at our bodies with something powerful and intense and quick, the body
Right.
can adapt like much better. But when we're trying to like slowly do stuff, sometimes yeah.
Right.
So and
Well,
that makes sense. That's so cool.
well, and I think that the social changes are what you and I probably have a whole practice is built around. The
Yeah.
chemistry of getting somebody to lose weight, I can lock you in an exam or hospital room, and we
Yeah.
can get you to lose weight. But you dealing with your own headspace is that the
Mhm.
steps where you say that crash dieting of saying this is how you're going to lose it forever. Now you can drop your weight for that crash diet, but it's truly these behavior changes where you say pick that fast that you can hold. Or I love that story of just eat the same stinking food you've been
Yeah.
eating for the last 20 years, but put it in this place where you have absence of food for those hours and watch how remarkable your body is at healing.
Yeah.
And you really have summarized that up in your book as well. So when you're looking at this is your first book, right?
No, it's my fourth book,
Oh,
believe it or
I'm
not, but
sorry.
it's no, but it's the first one with a major publisher with Hay
Oh,
House.
congratulations.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's the other three. Actually, they went back and they bought two of the other books. So we're gonna put them all out through Hay House.
Oh, congratulations. Well, honestly,
Thank
I'm
you.
as a book writer, and I know several of the folks that follow me are writers too. Uh, just share with the public the difference on what you had to do with a self-published book versus what happened with a publisher. And I'm being serious.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
fascinating difference that I think is hidden. People don't know this.
No. Well, okay, so Hay House has been amazing as far as like they've given me a lot of creative expression. They've asked me a lot of about my opinion. And I'll tell you a little story about the cover because that's where you start to realize like you don't have as much
Any
control
control, right?
as you would like. So, but basically, to get a book deal, you got to write a book proposal, 25,000 words. You got to get an agent. So I had to get an agent. My agent's been amazing, and then write this book, write a proposal, and then you pitch it to the publishing companies. And it was really interesting when we did that. What shocked me is how many of them came back and said, "Oh, we're not doing fasting books anymore. Like that trend is behind us. We're not
Oh,
doing
break
women's
my heart.
health." I know one of the major publishers said, "We're not doing women's health anymore." I'm like, what? What? Wait, what's going on? So,
Show them with
but
$1 million sale or million sales, please.
Right, exactly. But what I love about Hay House is the way I pitched it was that women need this book. We don't have a fasting manual for women. We have all these other fasting books, fabulous, but we don't have a manual for women.
Right.
And so Hay House was like, "We're in. We want you."
That's good.
They're so sweet. But there's, this book has had, God, like 5 editors, 3 proofreaders, like 2 graphic designers, like layout
Mhm.
people. Like this is not a solo journey. There has been a team of people, and not every step do you get to choose the
What
outcome.
happens, right?
Like the cover. So when they first gave me the cover, it was all white with the
Oh,
circle, and then it was colored in the letters, and
mhm.
I was like, that's boring. And so my agent said to me, it doesn't really look like you. You got a lot of color in your life. So we just decided to put and when I went back to them, I'm like, can you redo this? Give me some of their options. They're like, no, these are your 2 options. Here are your 2 options. So I was like, could we just put some teal behind it? And they did, and it was perfect.
It
So
does. It's awesome. I mean, it's a great, yeah, honestly, book covers are something I never spent time on until you have a couple and you're like, uh, oh, it's heavier than you think.
oh, it's
So
like naming a child. It's a
it's
big responsibility. Yeah.
yes. Well, it truly needs to be something that people can recognize across the room and say, no, this is one worth slowing down and reading. And not only the outline, but the stories in there, I think help people relate to say,
Yeah.
can you see yourself in that story? Can you see yourself in this person's problem? And that's really what I think attracts the reader to transcend. Don't just put this in your ear and think it's another one for the shelf. It really has the manual to help you and then connecting with as many of those pain points that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, obviously, with your book, that you deserve really reading this and finding their solutions in it. And then my favorite comments I get from people who've read the book is, I read the book and I thought I would never let anybody else. I mean, it was my Bible, and then I saw somebody who really needed to understand this, and they pass it along. So, you know,
Oh,
yeah. So
oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
manual effect of what you've got in your book is a
Yeah.
pass along book as well, where you learn it,
Thank you.
you study it, and then you say, now help your neighbor,
Yeah.
because it isn't just your problem. And the more people that do have this awakening of understanding what fat based hormones are doing and how much you can manipulate them with what goes past your lips. And then as women, we have different responsibilities in the way we take care of our bodies and the way we age. And society is clearly needing us to all keep our brains until the very last day. And that is
Yes,
dependent on our
please.
hormones.
Yes.
As
Yeah.
a mother of 3 boys, yes, this is required.
Yeah,
You've
and
got
I love what you're saying, because again, this is where you and I unite, is that if we're going to change the metabolic mess that we're all in, it
Mhm.
doesn't just take you and I standing up and saying, "Hey, here's how you do it." It takes, when people read my book, your book, when they have an experience with it, turning around and teaching your neighbor. And
Yes.
I really love the quote. One of my favorite quotes. I used to have it in my old office that I was in, is from Gandhi, and it's, be the change you want to see in the world.
Mhm. Amen, yeah.
And
Mhm.
so you be the example of it, you live it, and then people are going to ask you, and then you turn around and teach it. And this is how we will change the metabolic health of the world, is when each empowered person, not just woman, each powered in person turns around and empowers their community. Now we're going to see a global switch in the metabolic mess that we're in.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, as I look towards the year of 2023, not only can we pray for the best book sales for Fast Like a Girl,
Thank you.
and I assume I've seen it actually in bookstores and
In
Amazon and everywhere
bookstores.
you
Yeah.
look. The first time I set up the show, I had it in the link of the show notes, but I'll make sure to do that when we're done. Put it in the link of the show notes.
Thank you.
Just map out what your year of 2023 looks like. Besides promoting your book, what's some of the ways
Yeah.
you're for your
Wow.
next year?
Yeah, it's so funny because you think up to the book launch, and then you're like, oh wait, I just looked at my January, February. I'm like, oh, it looks just like the book launch. It's like a lot. So, but some really cool things that we're doing. So, and I'll tell you 3 neat things that I'm doing next year. One is we're going to do a live event. If you, for anybody lives in LA or near LA, I've actually got Leanne is gonna join me in a live event where we talk about her hormonal journey, how to get women in general to be able to start to embrace better hormonal health. So, and it's a fundraiser for hyperbaric oxygen.
Oh, fun. I have one of
Yeah.
those in my house.
Oh, me too. Right.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. So that will be on January 18th in LA. So join us for that. You can follow me for information on that. Do you know Tony Horton? He did the P90X.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So Tony,
yeah,
so Tony and I are actually doing a fitness program together, and we're going to time it to women's hormones.
Aha! That's so cool.
Super cool.
Well, wait a minute. So how's the program? Is it is online?
It'll be online. Yeah. Because, you know, everything he does now is online. Mm-hmm. And so, but what he's going to do is we're taking Tony's workouts, and then we're going to create a calendar. He'll create a calendar for men. I'll create a calendar for women, and we'll do postmenopausal women and cycling women. So we'll do all of it, but we're going to film it together. So I'm actually going to be in one of the fitness videos.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know, that's fun.
That's motivation. No, that's fun. Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I'm writing my next book. I just went into contract on the next book, and it's going to be around what happens to the female brain after 40. Specifically what happens to our neurotransmitters as these hormones start to go away. And you can pretty much bet that there'll be lots of metabolic health filtered throughout all of that.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the book out by Dr. Chris Palmer, Brain Energy. So he's the psychiatrist from Harvard. Right. He and I have worked on a couple cases together, and he's been one of those. I had been on stage with him, heard him say, going, "Oh, that's refreshing." He's saying what I'm saying. He's saying the stuff about mental health, and his book just came out as well. But unbelievable how well it took him 4 years to put together because as you know, with women's health, when you're the one writing it, you're like, well, now we even know more. So kind of drawing the line in the sand that you can say, here's the threshold that we can talk about. And you want a book that's not going to be, out of date tomorrow because of all that you're learning, and the universe is kind of learning about how we should have been talking about this. Your mental health one, he's a great resource to
okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely go check that out. That's awesome.
But yeah, so in the spirit of the best we can wish for you in my help of just empowering you and saying, I want you to win. I want the world to read this book. Does your publisher, maybe is a better way to say, have a goal of what they think the book will sell or where they're at?
Well, I'll let you in on a little behind the scenes. So it looks like we've got that first 15,000. The next 15,000 are coming, which is really great. And we did find out last week that New York Times is watching it right now for the list. So, but we're just trying to get it to as many women as possible. So any bestseller list would be just an amplification of us being able to get this out. So, again, this book to me is about the women and getting it to women. So when, hitting those lists just amplifies the message we're able to get out. So
amen. So that is the perfect place to end this interview, because you deserve the praise for the years you've spent kind of being the Pied Piper of saying, no, really, trust me, we are going to get you healthier, putting it in a book and saying, may we all help support this to be a bestseller, not just for your praise, but for the community's praise as well, to say you should be the leader, getting the fanfare, but we all benefit when the conversation around hormones and fat changes. And that's the moment of where you win.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I just love you. I feel like your heart, I hear it and I'm like, yes, you get it. Like you said, like you get it. You get it. Thank you so much for we have to do more together, because I just love how you show up. Yeah. Next week. Let's do something next week.
Yes. And 2023 has a whole agenda for improving our rhythm on the social media world and just being that higher level of education. So I will continue to point people to your book and really appreciate you taking the time to writing it so well. And it stops me from having to do it. So good job. Thank you.
I see how this works. The next book I want to write, I'm going to say to you, hey, Annette, what do you think? You want to write this one? I love it. I
Well,
love it.
God bless you. Happy New Year.
bless
And
you.
everybody check out that book, Fast Like a Girl.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Appreciate you.
You bet.
Bye.
Mm.